probably know I'm someone who's more used to court reporting than reporting on royal events. Or if I do report on royal events, then Prince Harry's normally on a balcony or flashing by in a carriage. And so this was extremely weird and surreal to see him in the court space giving evidence in a case like this. And the next thing to say really is he was up against, obviously, someone in Andrew Green KC who is, trained to make people look like they don't know what they're talking about. He's a top barrister, and Harry was really coming under fire. It actually started quite softly with the barrister who's representing the Mirror saying, look, if I say anything that's unduly intrusive, you have to let me know. And he apologised for the one thing that the Mirror has accepted that they did wrong, which was some reporting around him visiting a nightclub. But then really the gloves came off. And the attacks came, I thought it was kind of three-pronged, really. The first thing was that he was saying, essentially, a lot of these articles you didn't read at the time, so they couldn't have really caused you distress. He referred to an article that was written when he was just aged 11, and he said, if you didn't read it, how can you say the article caused you distress? And Harry replied, well, it had an effect on my life and the people around me, my mother in this case, and it was an article about him being rushed to hospital by his nanny. But then the next line of attack was really saying that a lot of this information that he's saying came from hacking was actually already in the public domain. So he gives examples, for example, where he was claiming that there was an article about him going climbing with his brother, and the Mirror had published this article, and he said it had actually already been published 2 days before in the Daily Mirror. In the Daily Mail, all that information was already out there, and the Sunday papers had it as well. So how could he say that this came from hacking? And then the third line of attack really is he's saying, really what's causing you distress is that things like you being accused of drug taking, stuff like that, is causing you embarrassment, but it's not the method by which these articles are obtained. And his essential point, that the lawyer representing the Mirror is saying you can't prove that these articles have been obtained through hacking or other means using private investigators, especially when, what would be the point of doing that if a lot of this information is already out there? And what Harry has essentially been saying is that the Mirror Group is known for hacking, it's had previous with hacking, and that he was one of the most high-profile figures of that time. There were hundreds of articles written about him, and it's almost ridiculous to suggest that he wasn't hacked and people around him weren't hacked. But when it comes to the specifics of each article, he's saying, well, whose phone was hacked? What piece of information came from this nefarious techniques? And that's where Harry is stumbling. But his one get-out line that he has been using a couple of times, he's saying, well, if you want to know the answer to that, why don't you ask the journalist who wrote the article? And I'm sure that his lawyers have told him to say that, because a lot of these journalists from the Mirror Group are not turning up to give evidence here. So Harry's making the point, look, here I am. OK, you may be getting me on a few points here, but I've got the courage to come and give evidence. Well, why aren't these journalists giving evidence? What have they got to hide?